Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and today is a special video that I want to present this video for New York Yanks fan 7. I really appreciate him showcasing my YouTube site and letting everyone know about my videos. I really want to appreciate his effort in really pumping up my subscribers. It was very low, and now it's gotten over 100 subscribers, and I want to thank him for that. And this video is dedicated for him. He had asked me to show the grade of my 52 Mantle, number 311, and I'm going to do that today. And before I go ahead and do that, I'm going to tell you the whole story about that, because in my other video I basically said that I got the card from the original owner that had apparently got it out of the packs, and this is the story behind this card. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to read you the article that came out in the Sports Collectors Daily. If you haven't read Sports Collectors Daily, it's a website, and it shows all the different things that are happening in the hobby. And a few years ago, they had an article of a family in southwestern Pennsylvania that found some cards. And this was one of the cards that they found after their father had passed away. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit about I'm going to read from the article. What I was trying to do is find a letter that says all the details on that when I got the card, but I haven't been able to find that, along with the auction catalog, because I did get it from the auction house, which got it directly from the owner. So I'm going to go ahead and just read a little bit about the article. In the meantime, I'll show the card a little bit here so you can take a good look at it. I'm going to place it right here so you can look at it. So this was the article in Sports Collectors Daily. It says, they weren't collectors, they weren't even avid sports fans, but members of a southwestern Pennsylvania family knew the little stack of baseball cards was old, and so they reached out to see what they had. Luckily, they were friends with a relative of someone who just happened to be in the sports memorabilia business. Detail on that was the cousin of Al Crisifulli. Al Crisifulli is the owner of Love of the Game Auctions. So the article goes on to say, bundled together with a piece of twine and virtually untouched for decades, the family said the group of 78 cards had been saved by their late father. The cards were stored inside a box in his attic, along with some of his other childhood toys. Did we mention that they were 1952 high numbers, including a Mickey Mantle? This was the Mickey Mantle in that 78 card high number lot that was found in that attic, wrapped with some twine in a little box with the gentleman's other toys. The cards were incredible, Crisafulli recalled. I sat with the family in their kitchen, going through these cards one by one, and most of them were sharp and vibrant, like they were straight out of the pack. Aside from typical top centering issues, the only thing I noted was some of the cards appeared a little narrow. Upon submission to PSA, the majority of the cards received grades between PSA 6s and PSA 8. For example, there was a copy of the scarce Eddie Matthews rookie that graded a 6.5. and a Jackie Robinson that graded a 6. The Mantle, unfortunately, received an authentic grade. The card was 1/16 of an inch narrow, a significant enough variation to prevent the card from attaining a numerical grade. The reason I cover up the grade is because I'm going to read a little bit more about it, but I just hate to see the grade that was given to this card. It says, the idea that these cards could have ever been trimmed seems very unlikely to us, opined Crisifulli. The original owner had had them packed away in boxes for decades, and his family is unfamiliar with the hobby at the same time, there's no question that some of the cards are narrow. Regardless, the Mantle has to be one of the most beautiful, authentic examples in the hobby. So the Mantle was graded, I'll take it off here. It was graded authentic, altered by PSA. Now, the card has not been altered, and I'll read you a little bit more about that. And I'm also going to show you another card that was in the lot that was also there. And that this was what I call the brother of the Mantle. I also bought the Roy Campanella. So I'm going to read now from the actual description of the lot from the auction. And I'm also going to show you, and just basically I'm just going to show you right now that the card, they were also, as you can see, this one is graded by SGC. So what happened was the owners, Al Crisafalli from Love of the Game Auctions, took this card and he knew it was not altered. So he sent it over to SGC and had them review the card, letting them know, of course, what PSA had said and the story behind it. The bottom line was that SGC decided that the card was not altered, was not trimmed, that it did come out of the pack just like that. In the old days, there were a lot of, the cards in the 50s and 60s were, basically cut almost by hand with a machine, but it was by hand. So you're going to find a lot of differences in sizes. And if you go even further back, for example, the 1948 Leaf cards, they're all over the place in size. And the same thing with some of these older cards. So when it went to when it went to SGC, they took a look at it, analyzed the card, and basically they said, no, the card is not altered. The card is just a minimum size. So they were going to, they would holder the card in a authentic minimum size holder. And this was the SGC sticker. They were going to place that on there. But Al and the owners of the card, the original owner, the family of the original owner, decided that they would rather just keep it in the PSA holder, not take any chances. And I agree with that. I wouldn't have taken any chances in switching it over. Personally, I would never even risk taking this card out of the holder and risk any damage that could possibly happen when they were re-slabbing it. So I agree with the decision, even though I don't like that it shows that it's altered. That's why I cover it up, because I personally know it's not. But it is a minimum size card. It did come out a little bit short along with some of the other cards. So I'm going to read you a little bit more of the story on that. And this was another one of the cards that was also found in there, which was the Roy Campanella. And the Roy Campanella was switched over to SGC, and they did grade it as authentic. But as you can see, these cards are virtually mint cards, straight out of the pack. It's the Roy Campanella card here. So I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit more about the Mantle, the story about how these cards came to be. So it says, basically it talks the auction description, and I have the auction catalog, and I have a letter from Al Crisafalli. I personally spoke to him. Very, very nice guy. When I called, he answered the phone himself. He told me the whole story about the card, how he personally went to the house and everything, that went through. He did also provide me a letter that tells me the whole story, a little more detailed than what I'm going to read you today. This is the auction description. The auction description said, easily the most popular and significant post-war baseball card, the 1952 Topps 311 Mickey Mantle goes beyond the now overused term iconic and into the stuff of legend. Atop the list of thousands of collectors he goes on to talk a little bit about the card. It says, certainly owning a 52 Mantle is a badge of collecting honor. So it goes on just to say, imagine our surprise when encountering this gorgeous specimen among a group of pristine, untouched 1952 high numbers presented to us by a non-collecting family in Western Pennsylvania. The card is simply stunning, virtually pristine, with sharp corners, brilliant borders, and vivid color, along with a nearly perfect centering. The primary flaw is simple. The card is 1/16 of an inch narrow, a significant enough variation to prevent the card from attaining a numerical grade. PSA confirmed our suspicion upon submission of the card. Sadly, that would not grade numerically. The company holdered the card with an authentic altered grade, however, suggesting that something untoward was done to the card. Having spent hours with the consigning family, we do not feel that to be the case. So we did what many do when in our shoes. We asked for a second opinion by shipping the card to SGC. After thorough analysis, SGC concurred with our opinion. The card is narrow, a size variance rendering it incapable of attaining a numerical grade. However, in their evaluation, SGC did not see signs of alteration or trimming with the card. Instead, they offered to holder the card with an A authentic designation and stating that the card did not meet the minimum size requirement necessary for the numerical grade. Ultimately, after conferring with the consignor's family, we elected to leave the card in the PSA holder for registry purposes, but will include the SGC minimum grading label as evidence that the card was not deemed to be altered by SGC. So I have looked at this card. I do have, as you see, I have a CSG mat here. And the reason I have that is because last year I was invited. I used to be a dealer back in the 80s and 90s. And I was invited to attend a grading school for CSG. They were hiring graders. And I did go there. I did pass the test. They asked me to go for an interview, but I'm retired and I didn't want to go back to work. So I didn't accept their job. But when I was at CSG, I spoke to Andy Broom, and Andy Broom is the head of the grading there. And I talked to him about this card and showed him the card and everything. And he agreed with everything, basically saying that, yeah, if it was that, it was a little short, the grading companies will not give them a grade at this point. So reading on, it says, the original owner has passed and his family is unaware of the origin of the cards, other than found in the little box in the attic of his house, wrapped in twine. It says, they are certainly incapable of performing any sophisticated card alteration, nor would they have any awareness that such shenanigans even happen in the hobby. A non-baseball family, they are unsure of how the cards even wound up in their father's belongings. The pile of cards were found in a box in his childhood toys, tied together with string, which damaged some of the cards, but thankfully not this one. Preserved for decades. When the collection was passed to us, we likely became the first people not part of this family to have ever touched the cards. So the card went from the family to Al to me. I bought it in the auction. It says, a pristine, fresh to the hobby, 1952 Mantle is a dream come true. In the days prior to third-party grading, this card would have taken its rightful place among the most valuable 1952 Mantle cards in the hobby. A beautifully centered, near mint to mint specimen. With the exacting standards of today's grading companies, however, it was not to be. Despite this, Al says it is the finest Mantle we have handled. So that's the story of this Mantle. And you could see that it is virtually a mint card. It has some things on the thing, but it doesn't, the card is beautiful. This is on, this little thing here is on the slab. You could see the card. You can see how beautiful it is. You can see the condition of it, the centering of it. before the days of grading, this card would have been a probably an 8. I'll show you the back of it. The back is just as beautiful with the sharp corners. That's what the actual card is. No creases, nothing, no alterations. One of the things that I did myself was I have a 12, I think it's a 10 or 12 loop that I look through. I look and check all the cards. And I went ahead and I did that with this card. I looked at the edges to see, because when there is some trimming, you can see that the edges, in some cases, would be a little white, more white than the other edges that were not trimmed. So I took a really good look at that with the loop all the way around. And again, I didn't see any evidence of trimming. Al knows that it wasn't trimmed because the family really didn't know about cards. And in the story that he wrote in the letter, and I couldn't find the letter at this point, but I have it somewhere. He talked about how the family was shocked when the card came back altered, because they had no idea anything about it, and they knew that they had just taken it right out of the little box with the rest of their father's toys, that they had just found it, so there's no way it could have been trimmed. And the other person who they contacted was a friend of theirs, happened to be the cousin of Al. So Al's cousin actually went, didn't go there, but received he asked the family to send him a picture of the cards, and they did. And that's when Al went over to take a look at the cards. So the other thing I want to say about this is that the cards that were submitted to PSA that were deemed to be short were 13 cards. You can see the word Campanella was one of those, along with the Mantle. And the Campanella was graded and slabbed in the SGC holders. I'm also going to read you a little bit about the other cards that were not. It said, here that we submitted the card rejected to PSA by SGC for a second opinion, making them aware of the entire story. SGC reviewed the cards and determined that about half qualified numerical grades, and then these 10, which did not, received an A designation. And the 10 there were 10 common cards. They were Clem Labine, George Spencer, Smokey Burgess, Dee Fondy, Lee Fusselman, Frank Crosetti, and a few others, along with the Roy Campanella and the Billy Herman card. And it says they did not meet the minimum size required to receive numerical grade. SGC does not feel the cards have been altered. However, they just do not measure up. And at the end, he says, this is truly an example of by the card, not the holder. That each from a fresh find of virtually untouched 1952 Topps high numbers. And that's basically it. It was a family in southwestern Pennsylvania. It says the cards are truly a mystery. The family is not a sports family, nor was the patriarch of the family even a collector. But upon his passing, the cards were discovered in a small pile, tied together with a piece of twine amongst his childhood toys. So, NYYanksfan7, that's the story of my Mantle. It is graded authentic altered, but it is not authentic altered. It is just authentic minimum size. It was just slightly short of a actual, to get an actual grade. But in my opinion, I've been collecting cards for many years. In the old days, before grading, when I was a dealer, there was no grading back in those days. And a card like this one would have been one of the top Mantle cards in the hobby. And to me, I The only card I was missing in my Mantle collection was a 52 Mantle. I've been looking for a good one for years. I was ready to buy one, a PSA 3, but I was able to get this card for about the same price as a PSA 3, and I figured I'd jump on it because I knew the background of the card, I knew the history of the card. I personally spoke to Al. Al told me that he went to the family's house to look over the cards, and he just couldn't believe the condition that these cards were all in. For about almost 70 years, these cards were sitting there for decades in the attic, in the box, and that's pretty much the story. So I do cover up the authentic altar because I know it's not altered. Maybe I'll stick this label on top of it. It says authentic minimum because that's SGC evaluation of it. And that's exactly what it is. It's just a minimum size along with about 13, a total of 13 cards that were minimum size from the lot. And PSA would only grade those as altered. So that's the story. This is what I did was I also purchased the Campanella from Love of the Game Auctions. And I do recommend Love of the Game Auctions. It's pretty much a vintage auction site, but it is a smaller auction house. They're out of New York. And Al, the owner, is an incredible guy. I talked to him personally. He sent me a letter with his experience, detailing exactly how he found the card, where he found the card, what the family told him, and everything about these cards. So this was a small lot of 78 cards that was found in an attic after the gentleman died, after their father had passed away. So he apparently had pulled these out of a pack, tied them up, put them in a little box with the rest of his toys. And these cards, in my opinion, are virtually mint. Like he said, a lot of the cards, the other cards that actually got grades, were graded anywhere from a 6 to an 8. And even the Eddie Matthews card, which is the last card of the set, graded a 6.5, which is extremely high grade for that card. And that card basically was off-centered, but everything else was perfect. So I'm gonna give you a good look at this Mantle. Probably one of the nicest Mantle 52 Mantles you'll ever see. Confirmed that it is not altered. It is just slightly short of size, which many cards from the 50s and 40s and 50s and 60s end up being, different, little bit different sizes than it's supposed to be. Because of the cutting process back in those days, it was just not all, automatic. It was basically done by hand and a cutting machine by hand. So here's the back of the Mantle. Give you guys a good look at it so you can see what it looks like. Corners were sharp, as you can see. It's just a beautiful, beautiful card. I'm so glad that I was able to pick up this card to complete my Mickey Mantle run. And it's really the heart of my collection. And I cover up the authentic altered because it just kind of upsets me that it's marked as altered when it really has never been altered. So that's the story, New York Yanks fan. I got this card directly from the auction house that got it directly from the owner's family after the original person who pulled this out of the pack passed away a few years ago. So this is the 1952 Mantle. As you can see, you're not going to find many 52 Mantles that are centered like this. Beautifully centered, top to bottom, side to side. It's just a person who, cut it at the factory they cut some of the cards short. So out of the 78 card lot, 13 of the cards were just a little bit short. But again, the family that owned it was not a baseball family, was not a collecting family. They had no idea even about trimming or anything like that. So they had no way of trimming the cards. Al explained to me that, you know, there was an older couple. They had no idea about trimming or what trimming was or how this card could have possibly ever been trimmed, because it was found in the box after the gentleman passed away. So that's the story on my Mickey Mantle Authentic. That's the grade, that's the reveal. And I have the brother of the card, which I call the brother, that also was found in the same lot, in the same little pile, which was the Roy Campanella. So the majority of the cards from that lot graded. They graded between a 6 and an 8 by PSA. And the ones that did not grade were sent to SGC, where SGC reevaluated them and regraded them in these authentic holders, except for the Mantle. And I'm kind of glad that they did not regrade that. I would not touch this card. I would not take it out of the holder ever, you know, but I don't like to see the altered on there, because I know for a fact that it is not altered. And I do have a letter and a full story of the background of this card. So that's the story. I want to thank NYYanksfan7 for helping me to promote my channel, for really letting people know of the cards that I have. I've been collecting cards all my life, and I'll be showing you a lot more of my cards in the future, especially some rarer stuff that you may have never seen before. So to end the video, that's what it is. It's a minimum card. It's just slightly short. So it would not receive a numerical grade, unfortunately. But for me, since I know the card came out of the pack like that, and it's not altered, it was the card for me. I'd rather have this card than go out and get one graded, maybe a 2 or 3 or even a 4 for, you know, what I paid for this one. And you know, I sold a lot of my collection to get it, but it was worth my while. So thank you, everybody. And last thing I want to say is one of the reasons I do these videos is first to show some of my collection, show people some cards they probably have never seen before, and also to try to raise some money for the cure of breast cancer. I have 3 friends of mine that got breast cancer. Unfortunately, one of them passed away last year. One of them has recovered, and the third one, my best friend, just finished her radiation and chemotherapy. So I would appreciate if you like these videos and you can make a donation. Please donate to the breast cancer, to the Conan Foundation. I have the description and the information in my description of the videos. So if you can donate to the breast cancer, I would really, really appreciate it. That's one of the reasons I do these videos. So I want to thank everyone for looking at these videos, for looking at the brothers, which is the Roy Campanella and the Mickey Mantle. They were both in that box for decades, sitting there, waiting to be found. And they were found after so many years. This is the card that came out of that little boy's box that put them there when he was about 10 years old, supposedly, or somewhere around there, with his other little childhood toys in a wooden box found in the attic of his house after he passed away. The family found it. So thank you, everyone, for looking at the videos again. Enjoy it, and take one last look at this beautiful Mickey Mantle. You won't find very many in this condition unless you're going to pay $1 million, literally. So thank you, everyone, and thanks again to NYYanksfan7 for sharing my videos. Really, really appreciate that. Everyone have a great day. Have an awesome day, and I'll be putting some more videos out very soon. Thank you so much. I really appreciate if you would subscribe and like. Have an awesome day, everybody.